Welcome to 8x8 Unplugged, where we connect you to the rock and roll universe with our award-winning 8x8 meetings platform. I'm your host, John Delosier. I'm joined by renowned photographer, drummer, and award-winning author Rob Shanahan, who will take your questions and lay down the rhythms for this rock and roll journey. Let's go. Hi everyone, my name is John Delosier and welcome to 8x8 Unplugged. Here we are again, bringing rock and roll and technology together right to your desktop. As always, I'm joined by the amazing, the famous, the popular photographer of the rock stars, author, drummer, Rob Shanahan. Roberto?
Quick picture for you.
I like it. I like it. And today, and Rob, I mean, really, for you especially, and now
this is amazing.
I'm off the charts now.
For today. First of all, you two were like my bros from another mother. Love both of you guys to death. We've been doing some great things in our lives together. And to have one of my favorite all-time drummers and great pal, Gregg Bissonette, everyone. Come on.
Yes.
You're too cool. Thanks for having me.
Quick backstory. 1986. You're on tour with David Lee Roth in Minnesota. I got to go see it. I'm the biggest Van Halen. We all are biggest Van Halen nuts. And there's my pal, Gregg Bissonette, up on stage. And I'm like, man, I got to meet that guy someday. I got to have him as my bud. And here we are.
You and I became buds in 2008, 12 years ago.
Wow. How about that? Amazing. By the way, during these crazy times, Greg, what are you up to these days? How are you staying busy during COVID?
Well, my favorite thing isn't being a drummer, believe it or not. My favorite thing is being a dad.
Amen.
And Rob knows with Chloe, and he's also a great husband with Hill, but I don't have a wife. I have two amazing kids that aren't kids anymore. They're 22 and 19, and we hang. My son's home from Pepperdine. My daughter's home from her college, Moore Park, and so we're just hanging like crazy. I have a friend of mine in Sherman Oaks, Frank is his name, and he has a studio called Woodcliff Studios. I can go in the side door to the drum room, and he'll be in the control room. We don't even have to be in the same room at the same time. People will send us files. I'll record on them. They'll pay he and I both in PayPal. And it's amazing what the interwebs have done to our, we can still work.
Yeah.
They can't keep us down. They can't keep us down. Sorry.
They can't keep us down. It's all about technology, which is this amazing 8x8 platform you're on right now. Can you believe we can communicate in video, real-time audio, share documents, record this session, and really it's what we do. So
I got to have these clients 8x8 in though, John. They got to 8x8 into me on these sessions, right?
Amen. Yes, sir. They sure do.
All right. That's my new.
Look, I want to go old school. We got so much to talk about, and you're such an interesting guy, and you've been around a little while, obviously talked about by many, including our friend Ted Templeman as the ultimate professional. That was a quote, by the way, in his book. But and we're going to get to that, but I want to take you back a little bit. Talk to me about your early connections in drumming. How did it happen?
Yeah.
Greg, take me to the beginning. How did this happen for you?
You got it. Well, my mom and dad were professional musicians. So my brother, Matt, my sister, Kathy, and I, we grew up in a super musical family where every night after dinner, it'd be like, hey, come on in and dig some Buddy Rich. We'd take my dad and I, he was a drummer. We'd take the brushes and play on the album covers. And it was kind of his happy hour, like after dinner happy hour. And I'd sort of sit in there with my dad, my hero. If my dad played first base, I wanted to play first base. My dad's a drummer. I want to play drums. So we play on album covers with brushes till it was time to go to bed, and probably, 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock, at least every night. And then I had to do the dreaded homework, which I was not into. So my dad had drums in the basement. You're from Ohio. I'm from Detroit. Rob's from Minneapolis. So we had basements, in California, it's garage bands because they don't have basements. But I'd go down to the basement and play my dad's drums. My mom had vibes. She was the jazz vibes player in my dad's band. So it was music. My dad got tickets to see the Beatles. He was playing a wedding in Detroit, and he came out with his band down on the Detroit River, and the hotel lobby was festooned with thousands of screaming girls. And my dad asked his friend Bob, this is an old story we always told, the food and beverage manager, what the heck is going on here? What are all these girls doing? Thousands of screaming girls. Bud, my dad's name was Bud. The Beatles are staying upstairs. The Beatles. My kids love the Beatles. My wife and I love the Beatles. And my dad, being the outgoing people person guy he was, Bob, any chance of putting me next to 6 tickets? And the guy said, Bud, are you out of your mind? It's the Beatles. It's been sold out for 6 months. They're playing at Detroit, hockey arena where the Red Wings play, Olympia Hockey Arena. He goes, but come back and see me at 1 a.m. when your wedding gig's over. Come on in the bar. My dad goes in the bar, listens to his bow tie, and Bob says, Bud, I got good news and bad news. Here's 6 tickets for tomorrow night, but it's going to cost you $36 total, $6 a ticket. And my dad thinks, capitalism. I'm making 50 on the gig. I'll clear 14. Kids, we're going to see the Beatles.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness gracious! Wow. And there's so much to talk about in between. But Rob, we should jump right to it.
Yeah.
You and I have talked about this with Greg. So at some point in your life during this amazing career, you had a chance to play with 2 of those Beatles.
Radio City Music Hall, July 7th, 2010.
The birthday celebration.
I got photos in my living room.
Oh, yeah.
Rob took of me and, playing drums, and there's Ringo on my right, and there's Paul up front. It was a surprise. And Rob and I knew about it, and a few people knew about it. But basically, Ringo had no idea. So it was Ringo's 70th, and Paul's, tells everybody he's going to do a little secret sound check, right, Rob?
Yeah.
So we're all there. And then Paul comes in, carrying his Hofner bass without a case.
Yeah.
That's the bass. So we played Birthday. And the story I'll never forget is I was thinking, man, I've got my little rhythm watch song starter. Because Rob and I, we like to start songs at the right tempo. When Rob plays with the Hollywood Stones, he doesn't play Charlie Watts tempos at the wrong tempo. He plays them at the right tempo. Same with me. I want to always play songs at the right tempo. So, John, I have a little song starter to my left, and I go, and that's how I get the tempos. And I turn it off, and I play. Now, I know Abe Jr., Paul McCartney's drummer, has the same Tom of Rhythm watch, and he gives Paul a hi-hat. Oh, we'd like to do a song that we did. And then Paul, 1, 2, 3, 4. And Ringo hates counting off tunes, so I get to count out the tunes. So I'm thinking, man, instead of, Paul running on stage, he's got the Armani Beatles suit. People are going to go nuts. He's going to plug in. Instead of him having to count it off, I just said to him, and I go, please, God, I pray that this isn't bad. Hey, Paul. Yeah, Greg. What do you say? I've got one of those rhythm watches like Abe has. Great. Well, then just start your hi-hat. And I said, here we go. What do you think if I just, since I started, what if you point to me and I go, and he looks at me, and it seemed like a half an hour. He's looking at me, that whole kind of thing, and he goes, that's a great idea. Yeah, y'all point to you, and you started. And I'm going, oh, I could have just blown it, man.
Amazing.
Rob can tell you, Ringo had no idea. He came out. We did Little Help from My Friends, and Yoko came out. We did Give Peace a Chance, John's song. And then the lights went out, and then Paul comes on stage, and Ringo just, wow, he ran up on stage, right, Rob? And he joined in and started playing. And what a blast.
Holy cow. Wow.
And I was right in front, in the pit, front row. I knew it was coming, so I got in the right spot because I wanted to have that angle with you, Greg, in the background. So the whole time I'm shooting it, I'm thinking, yeah, Beatles in the foreground. But look at my pal Greg in the background. That's
looking out for your bro, man.
Couldn't have been happier for you. And I'm thinking, man, this is a dream come true for Gregg Bissonette right here. I know, Greg, you have young students that you mentor and teach. Me, the same with photography. I have young kids that I love mentoring. I love speaking at colleges and photo schools. And, a lot of questions I get is, okay, how do you become a rock photographer? It's like there is no school for rock photography. There's no method. It's just busting butt, doing what you love, doing the right thing, all those things that you and I and John know all about. So tell us about how you went about getting Maynard Ferguson gig, because that's such a beautiful story.
Oh, thanks, Rob. Yeah, that was another prayer. At 13 or 14, because of listening to all these big band records after dinner with my mom and dad, Maynard Ferguson, Buddy Rich, Woody Herman, Duke Ellington, Count Basie, Don Ellis, Thad Jones, Mel Lewis. There used to be big bands that came through every town every month. Anyway, my dream as a minor trumpet player, but as a drummer, was to be Maynard's drummer. So I was making cassette tapes to no avail. The The management probably got the cassette, opened it, and it went right in the circular file immediately. It's nepotism, you know. A lot of people, their relative, their cousin, their second cousin, their best friend, somebody they went to college with, gets the gig. And I remember Randy Jones was the drummer. Then Dan D'Imperio was the drummer. Then Peter Erskine was the drummer. Then they went through a bunch of other drummers. And I decided to go down to North Texas State because it's a great music school. I wanted to get a music education degree because if I thought I want to move to LA and be a recording session touring drummer, but if I don't make enough money, I want to be able to teach. And junior high was the perfect age to teach because you don't have to do marching band after school. You don't have to go all around the world with the high school jazz band. You lock your door at 2 p.m. on a Friday and you don't come back till 8 a.m. on a Monday. You have the summers off. Okay, middle school band director. There's what I'm going to do. So I went to North Texas and I got that degree, a bachelor degree of music education. And then my dream was still to play with Maynard Ferguson before I moved to LA. So I'm driving by. It's a lot of prayers going on. I'm driving by Denton High School, an hour north of Dallas, an hour north of Fort Worth. It forms a triangle. And I see this tour bus, and I look, and it says Maynard Ferguson. I didn't know Maynard was playing Denton High School in their theater that night. So I go, I'm 22 years old, 21. I go into my landline, Yellow Pages, Holiday Inn, call the number. Yes, could I have Maynard Ferguson's room, please? I mean, that's talking about some, gonads there. And yeah, sure, they patch me through. There's no, well, let me get the manager. It's Maynard Ferguson. It's not Ringo or Charlie Watts. So, hello, Maynard? Oh, no, this isn't Maynard. This is Stan Mark. I'm his lead trumpet player, and I handle all the T-shirts. I'm getting some of the T-shirts to sell out of the room. I said, I know exactly who you are. You're a great player. He said, how can I help you? And I said, well, I go to North Texas State University. I'm the drummer in the top 1 o'clock lab band, and my hero is Maynard. And he goes, wait a minute. I thought that was like a bebop school. You like Maynard? We do theme from Rocky. We do Chameleon by Herbie Hancock. We're like a rock big band. I said, rock's my favorite. I'm a Beatle fanatic, but I love jazz. I love everything you guys do. I want to be in the band someday. Hey, I'm playing a gig tonight in Dallas. It's an hour away, but you guys can all come in and sit in. He goes, wait a minute. It's an hour away. Our bus driver is 110 years old. He goes to sleep at like 9. So I know 4 really pretty Texas gals with station wagons, and they'll drive you guys down there. I'll put your name on the list. Bring your horns and sit in, and the clincher, drinks around the house.
Done.
That's all you got to say to musicians.
Done.
And they all came out except for Maynard. And afterwards, Stan he'd had quite a few, and he's going, hi. I do the hiring and firing on this band. People send in tapes. Nah, it's about who I want in the band. And we have a drummer now. But whenever he leaves, you got the gig. And I said, like that? It's that easy? And then a month later, they needed a bass player. And so I recommended my brother, Matt, who was Elton John's bass player. And he played in Ringo's band in 03 with the Roundheads and David Lee Roth after Billy Sheehan with me. And anyway, Matt started first, and then he kept my name alive. Nepotism. And so the Detroit rhythm section became Maynard's rhythm section about 6 months later.
How about that? What a story.
And the reason why I bring that up, because it was you taking the initiative to reach out to Maynard Ferguson. And that's how things happen. That's how you make your world, you create your world for yourself. So that's really why I brought that up, because you talk about me with Ringo and Charlie and Jim Keltner. That was it. I called Ringo when I knew the Stones were in town and said, man, Charlie Watts is in town right now. What's the chances of getting you guys together for a photo shoot? And, Ringo loved it. So I called Jim Keltner because I didn't have Charlie's number. Nobody has Charlie's number. He doesn't have a cell phone. So I called Jim Keltner, said, I know Charlie's in town. I just talked to Ringo, and here's our plan. He goes, oh, great. Let me call Charlie. Like 10 minutes later, the phone rings. It's Jim. I just talked to Charlie, and tomorrow noon we'll see you at Ringo's. So that's how it happened.
That is what you call going for it, Robin. That's
the
West thing that John, Rob, and I have. We have people skills, but we also, we're workers, man. We're not sitting home, playing, Fortnite. We're rocking, man.
You got it right.
We're trying to make things happen. God gives a lot of people talent, but a lot of people. And I talk about this a lot in seminars I do. You've got to really ask, and you've got to really put out with the talent you've got. You got to go, hey, man, it's not just the talent. I always tell drummers half the pie is how you play. The other half of the pie is, are you a nice person that people want to hang out with? Or are you going to get on a tour bus and you're a pant load that brings down the whole vibe? Do you compliment people? Do you lift people up? Are you a light in a room? Or are you somebody that complains about everything? Man, half the battle with what Rob does and what I do and what you do, John, is how are you with other people? It's a people business. It's a people world.
I had a young guy ask me the other day, he called me, and I have a chance now because I'm becoming one of the older guys, right? So I have a chance now to mentor some of these kids in our business. And he came to me and said, John, JD, just tell me what's the key to success in technology and what you do? I said, there's three things: the people, and the people. And I believe it. As we fast forward into the David Lee Roth years, we got to address this. What happened when you heard this? Like, how did it happen? Like, what did somebody call you? Hey, Greg, Dave Roth needs a drummer. I mean, how does this work?
Yeah, that's a good. It kind of was that, but I'll tell you the story. Dave Roth. I'm like, Dave Roth. So Myron Grumbacher, one of my best friends, also a Buckeye from Youngstown, Ohio. Boom Boom Mancini.
One of my all-time favorite drummers growing up.
Myron is one of the first guys I meet in LA, and I tell him, I was with Maynard Ferguson, but I'm a rocker. I want to get a rock gig. So he starts recommending me for auditions and different bands. He recommended me to Tom Peterson from Cheap Trick, because his wife at the time said, you are better than these guys. You should quit Cheap Trick and start your own band. Oh, bad advice. Anyway, he did start a band, and I was going to be in that band for a minute, but then they broke up, and he's back in Cheap Trick, thank God. But so Myron recommends me for that. Then he goes, hey, you should try out for Vinnie Vincent's band. I go, Vinnie Vincent, the guy from Kiss, Lick It Up? Yeah, that guy. Took Ace Frehley's place? Yeah. Okay, cool. So I go down. I'm ready to audition, and Vinnie Vincent's so cool. He goes, bro, I wanted to, jam with you and stuff, but I got to tell you, we've already picked a drummer. You already picked a drummer? Yeah, this guy drove in with a Winnebago. He already got my cassette, learned all the songs. He played yesterday, so we hired him. Bobby Rock, you know him, Rob?
Oh, yeah.
Super workout guy, great guy, He got the gig, but Vinnie Vincent tells me, he gives me a tip. He says, you'd be really good for just what JD said, Dave Roth's band. I said, Dave Roth? Who's Dave Roth? And he goes, David Lee Roth? And I said, David Lee Roth's in Van Halen, man. Come on. He goes, no. People don't know this. But he quit. He hired Billy Sheehan to play bass. The two of them got Steve Vai to play guitar, and they're looking for a drummer. Call Steve right now. So I call Steve, and his sister's handling the auditions, Pam. She goes, yeah, she's very Long Island. Yeah, why don't you come in tomorrow at 2 o'clock, Greg? SIR on Sunset. And you'll get to play. So I show up at SIR on Sunset. Mark Cranny, my roommate, the great Mark Cranny from Gino Vanelli, Brother to Brother, Jethro Tull, Jean-Luc Ponty, one of my heroes. He loans me his Black Beauty 5-inch engraved drum. It's like his Lucky Snare. So I got it under my arm, and I happen to have a Sharpie in my pocket. So there's like 300, I don't know how many number drummers. There's a long line down Sunset. And I'm going, man, I'm not going to get this gig. All of a sudden, this guy walks out, and it's the guy that's been playing with my brother at a club called Sash in Studio City with E.G. Daly, Pee Wee Herman's girlfriend. Donnie, my bike. There's no basement in the Alamo. Donnie. And my brother, Matt Bissonette, and this drummer, Matt Sorum, are in the band. And I go, Matt Sorum, how did it go? And he goes, man, he's got this, kind of California, man. It wasn't good, man. They wanted me to play double bass. I don't play double bass, man. And I'm going, on the floor, on the cement, get my feet warmed up. Then the next guy walks out, and it's Russ McKinnon, a guy I knew from North Texas, who went on to play with Tower of Power later after Garibaldi and Barry Manilow for years. I said, Russ, how did it go? And he goes, man, not well. He's from Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. Like Jamie Oldick. He goes, not so well. He said, they said I didn't hit hard enough. I'm going, hit hard, double bass. So I go in, and there's Steve Vai and Billy Sheehan. And it wasn't, according to these guys, it wasn't the drumming. It was the fact that I wasn't a jerk. And then I said, wow, Steve Vai, man, I love your stuff. I love the Flexible album, all the stuff you did with Frank Zappa, with Vinnie Colaiuta. And then I said, Billy Sheehan from Tallis, what a great band. They're both going, all right, this guy's cool. He's one of us. He can hang, right? Rob, that's it, man, the hang. Ringo wanted you to have tea and shoot he and Charlie, one of his best friends, because you're a great guy and you can hang. So then I do the audition. I pull this horrible set of mixed match drums together, and I played Hot for Teacher. I love Alex Van Halen. And Steve goes, I got this idea for this song. And so he starts, and I start with the Sharpie on the white Remo head. I start with a perfect surface. I start writing out, he goes, wow, you can transcribe drum stuff? I said, yeah. And he goes, where'd you go to school? I went to Berkeley. I said, I know you went to Berkeley. I know all about you, Steve. I said, I went to North Texas. And right then he and Billy go, we're telling Dave, you're the guy tomorrow. I went down and played for Dave, and Dave said, how'd you learn all these songs? I said, well, after my audition, I drove up to Silmar, where Steve Vai lived, and I got a couple of cassettes of all the stuff you've been writing and rehearsing. So I made notes, and Dave goes, you read music? And I said, yeah. Well, I can read music and transcribe drum parts. And he goes, who was your last gig, bro? And I thought, oh, man, this is JD, what you were talking about. I said, I'm dead in the water, man. I couldn't lie. I said, Maynard Ferguson, thinking he's going to think I'm this jazz boat guy that wouldn't be into rock. And he goes, Maynard, Dave knows this stuff. He goes, Maynard Ferguson, the high note trumpet player that covered theme from Rocky, Herbie Hancock's Chameleon? And I said, yeah. And he goes, you sound great on these tunes, bro. If you can power that big band, you can power the four of us. Welcome to the band. Payday starts Friday. Let's go get some Mex food in old Pasadena.
Oh, my God.
I love it. I absolutely love it. You and I have spoken about this before, and I'm so fascinated by really the career path in TV and movies. And so you parlayed this incredible career. You've done it all, right? You've played in the early bands. You played with amazing professionals. You've been on the road, and I asked you about keeping the lights on with TV and film, and there's a whole career path there. For those young drummers out there, is there opportunity for them?
Yeah, well, we almost had a reunion of the Eat 'em and Smile Band a couple of years ago, a club called the Lucky Strike, and people found out that Dave was going to be there, and Steve Vai and Billy Sheehan and I, and then it got so overrun that the fire marshal came in and shut it down. But it was so cool just to have the four of us in a room, and Brett Tuggle, our great keyboard player with Fleetwood Mac for the last 18 years. And I just got Dave to the side and I said, Dave, I got to tell you something, man. I said, we haven't played together since probably 92. But when you hired me to be in your band, our band, in 85, October of 1985, I said, you have been my musical passport to go all over the world because of Eat 'em and Smile and Skyscraper and Little In and Up and those tours. You gave me the cred. Otherwise, I would have been nothing against it, but I would have been the big band jazz guy. And let's face it, big band jazz guys, it's hard to make a living as a big band jazz guy in 2020. I said, because I had done Maynard and because I had done your band, and we were together for 7 years, all of a sudden I started getting calls from producers to play on other bands' albums, to play on, foreign albums from all over the world, and to do TV shows and movies. And that's where you really, if you're a union musician and you compare, tax returns at the end of the year, there's something called the TV Film Special Payments Fund. My check came yesterday. And there's one called Phonograph Records Fund. And that comes 6 months later. Phonograph royalties. If you played on 1,000 albums and they were all really big, the session musicians, the check isn't all that great. But TV film, the royalty check, for some reason, maybe because a lot of the union members, union officers were more TV film than they were like pop guys. It's like 4 times as much. So that whole thing, when you say parlaying things into, other facets of the music biz, that's really, unless you're writing songs, songwriters make the most. People say, well, I don't write songs. Drummers say that. And I say, well, Neil Peart, was a good friend of mine. He didn't write guitar parts. That was Geddy and Alex. But he wrote the lyrics to every Rush song. And guess what? It's chords and music. And so he's 50% of all the Rush songs. I said, keep a little notebook, write little funny things down. Stan Lynch, a good friend of Rob and I. He writes songs for Don Henley, and he wrote Song of the Year for Tim McGraw. Anyway, he writes lyrics. He's a songwriter. Then I said, so writing songs, that's the best way to make money as a musician. But number two, I got to think royalties. If you're a union player and you do TV, film, that's a really good thing to do. And you can keep doing it. And I'm 61 in a couple of weeks. And there are people, Emil Richard just passed away, the most recorded percussionist. He was like 90. He's the finger snaps on da-da-da-da. And so you can do that until you die. You can always play TV, film stuff.
That's really cool. I love what you just said, Rob. Don't you love that? He was that David Lee Roth was a passport for Gregg, really the part. And we've all had one of those, by the way, in your career. You have somebody that took a chance on you, or somebody that believed in you, or a good friend that recommended you, whatever it is. It's really encouraging, isn't it? That you can take that, if you've got all those other tools we've talked about, and to move forward and to advance into a great career. Question on what you just said. You think you guys will ever reconnect and play a gig together again? Can you ever bring those four guys back together and do something?
I definitely do, because we were all so up for it 2 years ago. And everybody's super busy with stuff they're doing. But yeah, we all four of us, and Brett Tuggle too, all five of us have a great love and respect for that Eat 'em and Smile time. And we know that the fans, when I go do a drum clinic in Tuna Fish, Wyoming, that's the album they bring. Would you sign my Eat 'em and Smile album?
Always.
So, yeah, I think it will happen.
All right, Gregg, we do this really cool thing. It's called, shockingly, Rob, I need it. Give me my pick. Snapshots with Shanahan.
Woo!
Now, this is
That's my vote for you, Gregg. How many cameras you got on me? Just one.
Exactly. This is the part of the show, Gregg, where Rob, he's going to fire off some questions. Rob, take it from here.
5 questions, Gregg. No wrong answer. We got 20 seconds. First thing, top of your head. Who's your favorite drummer?
Ringo Starr.
Who's your favorite band of all time?
The Beatles.
I knew these answers before.
Yeah, I know you did.
I had to get them on tape anyway. Okay, Gregg. You're sailing the Bahamas and your ship's taking on water. You grab your record player and you only can grab one record and a generator. You're stuck on an island with one record. Tell me.
The Beatles' Help.
Good one. Favorite color?
Purple.
Oh, me too. Thank you. Favorite drum track you've ever recorded of all time? The one that you could listen to over and over and over and say, man, I killed it on that drum track. What's that track?
Believe it or not, Robin Zander from Cheap Trick, a song that he did, because I did his solo album, and it's called Reactionary Girl. And that album didn't do phenomenal, but I had such a blast recording that. And that was Myron Grombacher's Ludwig Kid.
Oh.
And a guy named Phil Campbell engineered it. And there's just something about that track. I keep going back. It's kind of a Stonesy track, Rob.
Yeah.
If you YouTube that song, you'll hear a little bit of kind of Charlie vibe, but we did it over at A&M Henson. Kind of a Keats guitar part,
Gregg Bissonette, man, let Rob, I mean, you are a good dude. I really have enjoyed getting to know you. Truly.
Well, same here, man. I've known Rob since one of my best pals since 2008, but you're a new best pal.
That's it. Write it down. 2020. The journey begins.
And I wonder if it would be okay if I mentioned something I'm really excited about. Rob and I have a really good pal named Don Lombardi, and I have been filming for the last 10 years, and I've just released my Gregg Bissonette Drum School on Drum Channel, and Rob knows all about Don.
Oh, yeah.
It's on Drum Channel, and you just type in my name, or you can go to my website, greggbissonette.com, and you can sign up for Gregg Bissonette Drum School.
The Gregg Bissonette Drum School. One thing about you, Gregg, is you've always been on top of your game as far as charting and learning new stuff. You're like the master of drums. You can play any style, any tempo, any color. You're one of those guys that goes into the studio and whatever a producer can throw at you, you can nail it.